Hey there, my name is Quill, and welcome to the Campfire. We will be talking about the Philippine folklore. This is an introduction to the creatures and monsters of the Filipino culture. I would be reading from a website which I would be putting the link to in the description box. So if you want to read along or learn more about the Filipino culture, then you may click the link down below. Let's start. Like the number of gods in the Philippines pantheon, the amount of creatures that fill Filipino folklore is numerous. From the myths retold by the separate townsfolk of different dialects, you will find that the creatures serve similar roles as its Western counterparts. There are many creatures that I would love to discuss, but the most important ones belong to one specific group, a group that encompasses monsters very similar to our Western Transylvanian friends. It is the aswang, which are known as the vampires of the Philippines. The aswang are by far the most prolific monsters in the Filipino folklore. In fact, the term aswang itself refers to various types of creatures that belong to this group. According to Spanish colonizers in the 16th century, the aswang are the most feared monsters amongst the mythological creatures of the Philippines. Here's what they look like. Aswang normally apply to a number of creatures, namely female shapeshifters of some kind or other. The aswang usually gets interchanged with manananggals, tik-tiks, and wakwaks, but I will get to them in a bit. Originally, aswang are female ghouls mostly described as vampire-like creatures that can change shape at will. It is difficult to accurately describe what an aswang looks like because the description varies from region to region. A few similarities do state that these shapeshifters normally live as regular female townspeople, though shy, quiet, and mysterious. At night, aswang take the forms of pigs, birds, or dogs and feast upon human body parts, namely the liver and heart. The aswang is said to have bloodshot eyes, an indication of their staying up all night in search of victims. Here is how you can protect yourself against them. Detecting and warding off aswang can be done in a number of ways. People use a special bottle of oil extract from boiled and decanted coconut meat mixed with plant stems. To determine if an aswang is nearby, the oil will boil or froth if the monster is nearby, and it will continue to do so until the aswang leaves. Among things that can ward off aswangs are silver, salt, ginger, and coins. The silver is believed to have originated from Western mythology, which makes sense considering the aswangs are closely linked to the lycanthropes, or what we know as werewolves. Salt is used to burn their skin, as it is believed to be a purifying agent in witchcraft. Ginger prevents the aswang from arriving, much like garlic is generally believed to ward off vampires, and the coins prevent the aswang from lifting or snatching you up into the air. Here are some similar creatures to the aswang. Here's a few descriptions of other aswang. As you've heard, aswang is just a different term for monsters. They have different kinds of monsters here, but generally they are called aswang. So now keep in mind that when I say aswang, it usually means the group of them and not just the monster I've discussed above. Here is one, Amalanhig, which is Visayan. It is another region of the Philippines. These creatures are a mixture of zombies and vampires. The Amalanhig is an aswang that rises from the dead and feeds upon humans by biting the necks. Their canine fangs are most prominent, and one can usually escape them by running in a zigzag direction or by climbing up a tree. Due to the stiffness of the Amalanhig's body, The monster can only walk in a straight direction and cannot climb trees. Bodies of water are also good hiding spots since the Amalanhig is frightened of them. Here is another, which is a manananggal, which is also from the Visayan region. The most distinct quality that separates manananggals from the aswang is that in flight, it detaches itself from its human torso. Imagine just seeing half of the creature flying above you. That's practically enough to scare the wits out of a lot of people. In Tagalog, the term manananggal translates to one who separates itself. In its disguise, the manananggal takes the form of an older, beautiful woman, sometimes described as having bloodshot eyes. This is also a monster that can potentially turn its victims into another manananggal, usually through physical or supernatural means. Another is an ik, and the wakwak or wak. It is also from the Visayan region. Those people who wants to visit the Philippines might want to give it a try to go to the Visayan region. It's a beautiful place, but also, as you can see, you can listen to right now, it is bursting of creatures. Alright, let's go back to the ikik, or what we call, for another term, the wakwak. These are bird-like humans, much like the manananggal, except they cannot sever their torsos from their body. These shape-shifting aswang monsters turn into large birds or bats and prowls at night. The ikik is named appropriately because in its attacking its victim, this monster produces an ik sound. In a similar manner, the wakwak is named for the sound it emits when it flies. Just think about it. You'd hear that crazy, almost creaking sound. And the wakwak, when you hear birds taking flight and its wings sounding like it's whipping the air. In the Philippines, that's what they think it sounds like. It sounds like wak wak. Alright, another one is the sigbin. It is also from the Visayan region. The sigbin or sigben are said to suck the blood out of its victims from the shadows. The sigbin are usually invisible to its victims, but the humans can usually tell a sigbin's presence from its nauseating stench. The creature resembles that of a hornless goat and is connected to the aswang as a type of familiar, not so much a similar creature. So we have other kinds of monsters. Now that I've discussed the most of the aswang, I'd also like to give a brief mention to the other monsters that are said to roam the Philippine Islands. Keep in mind, I've split them up into their western equivalents so they're organized. So let's go to the merfolk and the water spirits. We have the sirena. This refers to the female mermaid, and an encanto, meaning a spirit or an elf. Usually found within nature, like its namesake, most definitely stemming from the Greek mythology, the sirena is a half-human, half-fish creature that possesses a beautiful voice, attracting men into a watery grave. Sounds familiar? I wouldn't put it past you. We have another, which is called the siokoi. The siokoi are the male equivalents of merfolk, and are described to be more animalistic than the sirena. In fact, the siokoi is even described to be a monstrous creature with long, green tentacles and fish-like bodies. And the last one will be the katao. This is the name of the higher-ranked mermen said to be reigning rulers of the oceans. Unlike the siokoi, the katao resembles a human almost in full form, with feet instead of tails. The only difference is that the katao have gills on their bodies and fins on their arms. These creatures are also said to possess the ability to manipulate water. Water bending, anyone? Or maybe, if you've watched Waterworld, maybe that's what the guy was made into. So let's go into another group, which are birds of a feather. Let's go straight to the sari manok. This legendary bird is sort of like a chicken. Manok translates to chicken in Filipino and is said to have originated from Islamic legend. According to the Maranao people, who originated this myth from a totem bird called Itotoro, the bird woke every living creature except man. It is said that the world would end if the crow of this particular bird ceases. The next one is Tigmamanukan. This one happens to be a bird of omen, and like the cat, for luck. The direction in which this bird flies usually indicates the prospect of a journey. If the bird flew from right to left, then it brings success. On the other hand, if the bird went from left to right, then those that are traveling were doomed. The last one in this group is the Minokawa. The Minokawa is a large bird, said to be so enormous that it blocked out the light from the moon. This bird is also said to feed on the moon when there are no other sources of food around, and it is a relative to the sky serpent Bakunawa. Let's also move right now to the other group, which are the little folks. The next group is called Duendes. The Duende are the Philippines equivalent of hobgoblins and dwarves. These are the creatures or little gnome spirits that play a certain amount of mischiefs on humans. Though, from time to time they are also considered house guardians. The Duende also play a great many part in superstitions throughout the country. Now let's go to the next one, which is the Nuno sa Punso. These are male goblins said to live in either an anthill or a termite mound. The Nuno is said to look like a small old man with a long beard, while the Duende tend to be more playful, mischievous creatures. The Nuno is a temperamental and inflicts a whole slew of terrible vengeance on those who cross it. The last one of these little folk group is the Tiyanak. This is not so much a dwarf or a goblin. In fact, a Tiyanak is similar to that of a changeling or a demon spirit in the form of a child. Usually, Aswang used them as substitutes for the children they snatched away as victims. Now let's go to the next group of the Filipino culture's monsters and creatures. The Tikbalang is what you would call a reverse centaur. The creature's body is male and its head and feet are those of a horse. These creatures are said to scare travelers astray, usually getting them lost and traveling in circles. Imagine that, a giant creature with a head of a horse and hooves with a tail of a horse is just trying to trick you, making you lost in some forest in a dark creepy night, maybe like this one. Well, let's move on to the Angitai. The Angitai is the female counterpart of the Tikbalang. They are, however, more similar to centaurs, with their heads being that of a female human and the body of a horse from the waist down. Sometimes they are also described to have one horn, like that of a unicorn, and are attracted to gemstones. Legends say that the Angitai appears on the event that rain falls even with a clear sky. The next one, and the last for this campfire story, is the Sarangay. This is perhaps a creature resembling the Minotaur. The Sarangay is a half-human, half-bull, with a jewel attached to its ears. Those who attempt to steal this jewel from the Sarangay is killed in cold blood. So again, there are plentiful creatures that I haven't mentioned. And the person that created this website that I have the link to below has also added all of the above and then some into an encyclopedia titled Monsters and Creatures, which you will also find the link to below. So, did you have fun learning about the Philippine creatures? If you want to know more, don't hesitate to ask me for more, cause I will just be here waiting in the campfire for new stories to tell, new stories to listen to. See you again next time.